Hi, this is Milo Primo, and I am excited to talk with you today about the importance of wills for LGBTQ New Yorkers. Not only are we going to be talking about wills, but we're also going to talk a little bit about trusts, funeral pre-planning, disposition of remains, and obituary drafting. So suffice it to say, we will be talking about when we die. So bear that in mind, prepare yourself for that. But we're going to talk about it in a way that really focuses on creating a peace of mind, knowing that we are planning today for inevitabilities sometime in the future. So why are we doing this? Because we know that healthcare and aging and elder care systems are not really prepared for LGBTQ people. That often our community is not really targeted for making sure that we have documents in place to make sure that our identities and our relationships are honored and dignified in these spaces and in death. So, what we really want to do is help you get power back and control over how it is you're treated all the way until the moment that you die, and also how you're treated after your death, right? And we want to make sure that your wishes are honored from start to finish all the way through. And that's what we're doing here today. So let's start with wills. What we want to think about is what happens if we don't have a will in place. So in New York State, if you don't have a will, the state will go in a certain order of people and distribute your property, the things that you own. Property is just stuff, right? Your money, your things, your car, any assets that you have, in a certain order. So if you have a surviving spouse, somebody that you're married to, they would get sort of first pick of everything. After that come your children, and if applicable, grandchildren. This includes biological, adopted, or children that are born via surrogacy. It also includes potential future children, as such that might be stored as genetic material for the time being. If you do not have a surviving spouse or children or grandchildren, your things, your assets, your property go to your parents. If your parents aren't around or available, it goes to your siblings or to their children. If not them, to aunts, uncles, and cousins. And if not to them, then your cousins' children. And if not to any of those people, if no one is around, then it goes to the state to be sort of absorbed. So if you're looking at this and going, wow, I'd really love for my property to go in a different direction or be given to people that are not on this list, then you might want to consider preparing a will. So that's what we're going to talk about. So what is a will? A will is a written document. You must be 18 or older in order to have a will that you can sign and that would be legally binding. So if you're under 18, court will not really pay attention to a will that you create, though hopefully someone will honor the wishes that you put down in writing. It won't be a legal document. If you're 18 or older, it would be. You must be of sound mind and memory when you write it. And what it can do is say what you want to have done with your money, your property, and your physical body. So when we talk about disposition of bodily remains, that's what we're talking about. You can also appoint someone to carry out these wishes. That person would be your executor. And you sign it at the end, and two witnesses have to watch you sign it and write their names down too, that they watched you sign it and that they knew that the thing that you were signing was a will. The other thing that's important is that the witnesses also have to be 18 or older, and they cannot be beneficiaries of the will. That means that you can't have witnesses signing who will also be getting something from your will. So they'll have to be people who are otherwise not going to benefit from what you're putting in there. So what can your will include? It can include specific gifts like, hey, I want my favorite earrings to go to my friend Aisha. Cash gifts, I want $20 from my credit union to go to Sam. And then there can also be a residuary disposition, which is just all the other stuff, right? Like if you don't have any specific gifts to go out, or after the specific gifts, you could say everything else, I want to go to my drag troupe or to a charity of my choice or wherever it is that you want it to go. You can also appoint executors, trustees, guardians. Guardians can be helpful for children or adults that are dependent on you, or animals. If you have any pets or service animals that you want to have taken care of, you can appoint guardians in this document, or alternates. You can also include information about online usernames and passwords, so your executor can access those accounts online and close them for you or protect them, and include funeral arrangement details. The good news is that a will can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. It can be long and thorough and detailed, or it can be extremely simple. Wills written on a piece of regular paper or on the back of a napkin are completely acceptable, and can be upheld in court as long as they have those key pieces that we talked about, including that your signature is at the end and the witnesses sign it after you. So here we see one example of somebody who wrote a will on a piece of paper, an upside down notebook paper, and signed it at the end and had two witnesses sign it. And this would technically be considered a will, even though it's extremely simple, it's handwritten. It works, right? So this is something that you can do with or without the help of an attorney. An attorney, of course, can give you more advice about more complex details if you have them or you need to include them, but it doesn't have to be super complex. So what do you do with your will once you've got it? Definitely keep the original in a very safe place, either with you or with someone that you trust. If you have an attorney, you can keep it with the attorney. But you can give copies of a signed will and a witnessed will to your executor, the person that you're naming as the person who will be doing the stuff in the will that you've laid out, or to someone else that you trust to have it. So, speaking of trusts, which are different things, what is a trust and how might it be useful to you? So a trust is a way of setting aside money for specific people or purposes that are controlled or protected by someone called a trustee who follows your directions for distributing the money. So who can benefit from a trust? Lots of different people. A spouse or partners could benefit, children or adult dependents, pets or service animals. So say you die and leave a pet behind, you've appointed a guardian to take care of that pet. You could have a trust for that pet so that the guardian gets a certain amount of money every month to help cover the vet costs and the food costs and new leashes and a new dog toy each month, right? So it's not paying the guardian, but it's helping the guardian pay for the cost of the pet. You could have a trust that gets paid out to a charitable or nonprofit organization that you support or anyone else that you want. There's a general understanding, unfortunately, that trusts are generally for wealthy people and only accessible to people that have a lot of assets. But this isn't necessarily true. Anybody can start a trust and anybody can benefit from a trust. The expensive piece might come from attorney's fees that set up trusts. So somebody who is going to put together all the paperwork, create the accounts with the bank or with whatever organization is going to hold it and be the trustee. But there are a lot of low-cost options that exist. One of them is here. It's the KISS Trust. It's a way of doing it yourself. You get to kind of put in almost any minimum amount that you want. There's usually a pretty small startup fee or no startup fee, very low or no annual fees or trading fees. And you can add to the trust over time pretty easily or adjust it to give it additional perks and benefits over time. The last thing we want to talk about today are considerations around funeral pre-planning, disposition of remains, and obituary drafting. So this is an opportunity for you to, if you have a strong preference about any of these things, to really kind of orchestrate and curate the way you want things to go after you die. Some folks don't care and it just doesn't matter that much to them, and that's totally fine. You don't have to do this. But if it's something you're interested in doing, you have the right to do it, and it's something you can include in these documents. And I think it's actually a really grand way to kind of have a finale of life that is really capturing the spirit of who I am and the spirit of who we are even after we go. So some things to consider. If you have a preference about being cremated or being buried, if you want to be cremated, do you have a preference around things like, a fancy urn that you would want your ashes to be kept in, or, the equivalent of a coffee can, if not actually a coffee can? Do you want your ashes to be preserved or interred somewhere, or do you want them spread somewhere? If you want to be buried, do you have a preferred outfit and hairdo? Where do you want the burial to be? Is your spot already reserved so you can let somebody know so they can be sure to go there? Have you already prepaid for any of these arrangements? Or where should the money come from? Should it come out of one of your accounts? You can let your executor know that. Are you going to want to have any sort of visiting hours or calling hours or wake? Are you going to want to have an actual funeral ceremony of some kind? What faith practice would you like to have honored or to be part of that funeral ceremony? Do you want a secular ceremony of some kind, a celebration of life? Do you want a reception where friends and family gather? Do you have any preferred speakers or eulogists that you would like to share your story with everyone? Is there anyone that you want to exclude from the services that you definitely don't want to be there because they were not there for you in life? Um, are there any color themes for the decor or for the guests' outfits that you want them to wear? Are there any favorite foods that you want served? Any playlists or poems or other readings that you definitely want to be part of it, right? You can kind of orchestrate all of these things and offer them up as suggestions so that the folks that you leave behind have a sense of how best to honor you, honor your spirit, honor your life, and gather together to mourn together after you go. Another thing you could do is consider drafting your own obituary, which allows you to control your own story. And I know that all of this sounds sometimes a little bit morbid to folks, but something that we know to be true, especially for LGBTQ folks, is that depending on who we are and who our families are and what kind of communities we're in, the folks who write our obituaries may not get it right, and that might be intentional. There might be a rewriting of our stories against our lives and our wishes, or it might be accidental. Somebody just didn't know us well or didn't know the full truth of our lives and therefore can't capture us well in our obituary. So this is your opportunity to tell your own story. You can read other obituaries for ideas. There are some really incredible ones that are very full of life and humor and irony and other things that you could find on the internet. You have an opportunity to say what your life meant to you and means to you. You can think of 3 or 6 words that really sum up your life in a nutshell that you want to just really drive home. You can really inspire yourself in the process and have fun with it. You can include a recent photo that captures you today and maybe not you at some other point in your life that no longer represents who you are or what you look like, or the kind of family you have or relationships that you're in. And you have the opportunity to update it regularly so it continues to capture who you are even as time goes by and life changes. I would recommend, keeping this with your other documents so that they're easily accessible, but also maybe give access to a friend or a loved one or even an attorney so that in the event that you pass, there's easy access to it. So that could be part of the process of grieving and also wrapping up your affairs. So with all things related to this, all of this is really, challenging. It's a lot to think about. You don't have to do it alone. I definitely encourage you to reach out to friends or family or other community members or spirit guides or counselors, spiritual counselors that you can lean on to help you think through these things. You don't have to do any of them, but often having these in place is a big relief because it's just one less thing that you have to worry about. And you know for a fact that your memory and your life will be honored and celebrated in a way that's meaningful to you. So if you haven't already, check out the other video that goes along with this where we talk about advanced directives and healthcare proxies, which is your opportunity to really take back power and determine how it is that you will be treated while you're alive, but in the event you become incapacitated and unable to make medical decisions for yourself. So with those documents, you're able to appoint somebody to be your agent to make decisions for you and explain in some detail what kind of decisions they should make in order to follow your values and your wishes. So thank you for watching these videos. I hope that they were helpful and I wish you the best of luck moving forward. Take care. Bye-bye.